What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we've got an absolute legend in the skate scene, the legend Long-Haired Boy. Now, this guy's been in the scene for a really, really long time, working so hard past times. The scene's creating some absolute amazing, incredible beast boards. Now, we're here not just to talk about Long-Haired Boy, we're talking about the e-skate company he's been putting together throughout the years, the Defiant Board. So bring in Long-Haired Boy, and talk more about Defiant Board Society.
Hey,
what's up, man? Sorry about the technical difficulties today. You've been incredibly patient with me, so it's much appreciated. It's not something we like to do, but we do work around to make this sure.
Glad you got it working.
Just got something, yeah. And we're good. Cool. Right. So for people who for some reason do not know you and do not know Defiant, do you want to give a little bit of a mild introduction about yourself and how you're involved in the community, please?
Well, I've been building boards since about 2015, late 2015. So there's been a lot of like building stuff and posting stuff, and then people ask questions or whatever, and so that's kind of how the whole community thing got started for me. Of course, there was already people out there, but and then with the great exodus of the electric skateboard builders forum. Everybody ended up on my forum because I was just trying to write some articles and have somewhere to put comments, but it turned into like way more than that. And so then, I was still building like a lot of customs for people. And then eventually I decided that maybe I just want to do small batches of my own stuff. So I built a series of flux-based builds, and then I did some demon seeds. And then I was like, you know what, I'm going to take a break. I'm tired of this. So I just kind of quit all my side work and stuff and focused on my regular day job, because I had a day job like all through that,
Yeah.
And I was getting exhausted, so I just took a little break, and like right as I'm like wrapping stuff up and putting my feet up, somebody contacted me on Instagram and was like, hey, you want to build some awesome boards? Mm-hmm. And then the Instagrams led to emails, and the emails led to video calls on Zoom or whatever. And yeah, now I'm working full time building boards for Defiant.
So it pulls you back in, always pulling you back in. I always like to start off these interviews with kind of like foundations. You said like from 2015. So what was the kind of like first, how did you go into like, was it DIY straight away? Was that kind of the element to go?
Yeah.
Was it,
I think Boosted came out in 2013, right? And so there were Boosted boards, but they kind of got the Xerox treatment, So everybody was like, "Oh, Boosted, is that a Boosted? Is this a Boosted?" And
yeah.
A lot of other brands, Altered and Evolve were just kind of there, but Boosted had like the whole scene for a while, and so people were trying to modify or started trying to build, and the only parts that were available to the DIY community really were mostly like model airplane cars or model airplane motors, and like fifth scale car ESCs and those big trigger remotes. So
yeah.
That's where I got in at it.
So I've got a question for you. Was this kind of, you said obviously about 2015, obviously my thing's about, I always like to start off with these interviews with kind of like with where we're going from. Was that one of the first builds then from day one? Was that your first build?
Yeah, that's my son Zach in the picture there on his bust and pushboard. Yes, that red one in the back, that I believe is a 10S 3P.
Oh wow.
Yeah, with 18650 cells, and those look like the inertian mounts. So I probably have either an inertian VESC or an all-in VESC in that.
That's pretty big battery for back in the day in 2015. 10S3P must have been quite significantly big for that time.
Yeah, I remember Jason. Once upon a time, I was friends with Jason Potter, before everything went crazy. But one time he called me, or he basically called me, and said, "Hey, can you range test these space cells?" Because I was kind of helping him ship them out in America. Like he would send me a whole bunch here to the house, and then I would ship them out to the US people. He was like, "Can you help me out and range test this space cell?" And so it was like super cold out, and I was all up, and I got maybe 15, 16 miles out of it, and that at the time was like legendary. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, like early days. I think that's what I love about these interviews is talking about kind of like the growth of like where we've come from, like the early days, simpler time of e-skate when it was just like being able to skate was the only thing we had to worry about, and so it's like changing over the years. Was the busting that in that photo the electric as well? Or was that a kick push board?
No, that's a push. What we used to do is I was the only one that could afford parts, so my kids didn't get leftovers because there weren't any yet, really.
Yeah.
So what we would do is we'd get a rope and we would ski. I'd tow.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. So we'd go out to like a 4-mile stretch or something, and I would like tow them, or sometimes I would get towed because it's fun. But yeah, that's how we would do that.
So is this one of the was this your personal first board then?
Oh yeah, that's the Scarlet. That's the first one I was selling. I think it's probably the third one I built, but no, that's the second board I built. That one.
A really big toe on it as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's some serious nostalgia looking at that. I think those are like 83 millimeter wheels, like the ABEC knockoffs that everyone used to use.
It's pretty nippy, and like look on the date. It's 7 years ago. Over a lifetime. It's not very long, but 7 years ago in e-skate, that must have been extremely competitive at the time with what was out there at the time. Surely.
Yeah, I mean, if you could do like 25, 26, 27 miles an hour on a board you built, you were absolutely insane at that time. Never mind that downhillers are doing 90 all the time, but like e-skate.
Yeah.
That was
talking. It seems like I've always noticed as well. What's the obsession with everything being red, as well?
It's a very fast color.
It's the fastest color you could pick.
It's the fastest color, it is, and I've always liked it. Like it just looks good. Ferraris are red, Lamborghinis are red.
I think it's really interesting because I feel like we missed the opportunity to kind of you say like Ferraris now. I feel like pulling in different kind of demographics into e-skate would make stuff really, really, really interesting and cool. So I've noticed a lot of your builds are always based around street wheels, Eurofane, stuff like that. Is that your passionate demographic for how you like to ride?
Yeah, that's just where I live. I've never been into like and this isn't like I don't like it or anything. I've ridden.
No, but yeah. We built. I've seen find all these interviews. I find the builders build the board for them, and then they share that with everyone else, and that seems to be the growth of it.
And I've built mountain boards for people, just absolute monsters. But for me personally, like because of where I live, we just have so much delicious pavement, like everywhere. We have hundreds of miles of paved trails. And the streets are usually really good. Neighborhood streets are great. So I've just always been into urethane. I've gotten into tires and out of tires. I actually have a Flux build still that I ride. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like that pavement is just so delicious.
I suppose that's what pushes us, to ride 80 is our environment. And if you're fortunate enough to have these endless, super smooth trails and stuff like that, which goes on forever, like these bike lanes, looks absolutely gorgeous. So that's why it's always been a street conversion, mostly street board as such.
Yeah, and we came out with Defiant is working on getting produced. We're taking pre-orders already for a 5-inch wheel that takes the Hoyt 5-inch tire. Mm-hmm. It's a nice machined aluminum rim, and it's gonna solve the problem of the crappy streets. That one is called the Power Glide. Because of the way Shopify works, they make it like really hard to just pick stuff and then make that, so what we're going to do is we're going to split out all of the configurations we come up with across different products, like completely different products in Shopify to make it simpler. So the Power Glide is basically a Defiant one with those 5-inch street tires. And those are on pre-order right now because we have to wait until CNY is over to get the wheels produced.
I've ridden these wheels and they're really, really surprising. They're like, I seem to find when I was riding with the Hoyt guys at ECon, I seem to find it's all the fun of a street wheel without the worry of a street wheel. I seem to find.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's only a 1.5 by 5, but hang on, I'll show you. I got a rim right here. Let me show you.
Oh, here we go. Guys, thank you everyone who's joined the stream so far. Please put in the questions because this is a chance to get live results and talks. So
yeah, there they are. This guy right here.
A surprise, and they're not a solid wheel either. They actually are inflated as well, aren't they? So you have that cushion as well.
Yeah, they're pneumatic. They have a very low profile. You know, the tires have a low profile. But did you catch that? That's a kegel pattern on the back. So
yeah, I was going to say that as well. So you got more adaptability as well, surely.
Yeah, you can put these on just about anything that can accept that style of drive system. Our drive system are kegel pins. We run BOAs, and we're going to run these. And I've tried Mad wheels; they're great. The hollow wheels, I have a set of those. Those were interesting. So yeah, you can swap the wheels out pretty easy on these. And the gear ratio on the Defiant one will support up to about 120-25 millimeter wheel, and this one is about 123 when you're standing on it at full pressure. So it's right at the top end of. You're going to lose torque if you get anything bigger.
yeah, for sure. And I was going to say as well, with the footprint of the board, it is a very extreme. Let me get some of the shots up. It is extremely thin. I've never seen a board so thin. Like actually wide, large, but thin. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It makes it a lot easier to tuck under your arm. The balance point is right on the the cutout on the sides. Right where it bends back out the full width on the motor's end is where you can grab it with your hand and it'll just balance there really nicely.
So obviously, I like to talk about the journey of one guy. I've got a question here actually, just briefly, I'm going to bring up here. So you talk about the flux builds, like so the Evos and the flux builds were absolutely business.
They were, yeah. I had a lot of fun with those.
I suppose this is obviously where Defiant are at this point here. After digging a little bit deeper, obviously this is like a dedicated street board. Would something like a dedicated larger AT board? Because I feel like this is kind of perfect for the ultimate kind of long range, carvy, endless cruise street. Would that be something that would be pushed forward going on to like
something big,
more of an
like a LaCroix style kind of board?
Potentially.
Yeah, we're actually in discussing the method or options of how we could produce like a proper off-road board, not necessarily a hybrid or AT, because you can get AT with the street wheels, but if you want to go like on the horse trails or down the mountains or whatever, you want 8-inch knobbies, you want like a completely different deck, you want completely different trucks, you want something that's going to be able to handle that kind of riding. So yeah, I can see like at some point after that, possibly coming up with some kind of hybrid street carver, but
this is kind of like for the kind of dedicated, serious, long range, carvy, high premium. Another question as well? Obviously, I looked on the website, so obviously you got the goal, which is obviously premium e-skate. Why was that the focus of pushing one of the hardest markets in the e-skate scene, which is do the innovation side of things and making premium products?
I think about this sometimes. It's like, I could have just worked with a Chinese factory and got the bugs out of one of the boards that is probably most popular and just done like a rebrand and a reconfigure and, just tell them this sucks and this is why this is, and get them to fix all the stuff that's wrong with it and still end up with like a $900 board. And why didn't I do that? Because when they came to me, they were like, we want your brand, we want what you've been doing, and we want you to design and build like the best board. Like basically, you know how people talk like that. They're like, build the and so that's what I did. To me, like I tried to mesh like everything I know about what I love about skating and like what makes a board worth it, and when you combine a thin flat battery with some urethane on basically the perfect gear ratio with huge motors, what you end up with is something that'll take you a very long distance, because it's efficient and it's easy to carry, even though it's 46 inches long.
I'm surprised that when I saw it in person at ESkateCon, how unbelievably thin, and I will say it's a lot like the thinness of the board. Was that kind of the goal from the offset of making a super thin board,
Yeah,
or like almost stealthy as such?
I wanted something thin and easy to deal with, easy to carry. You know, a lot of people pick up their motors or they drag their motor mounts on the ground or whatever, you know, to get it around. But these, you can flip it up and tuck it under your arm, even as big as it is. Um, and I wanted that, and I also wanted some flex, like some flex, not a lot of flex, but I wanted some flex, which is why we went with 9-ply maple and a segmented enclosure so that it could bend. And a lot of those, somebody mentioned the Evos and stuff that I built before, and the flex builds. Those are like those two boards. The Evos and flexes are like on the opposite side of the spectrum. The flexes are like bouncy, and the Evos are stiff. And I think a lot of people associate like high-speed street boards with being super stiff. But if you have some flex, you can really lean into those carbs. You know, like it works with you.
So I'll comment here. I just want to bring up here, so let me just get back up here. I was talking, obviously, you mentioned at the beginning about obviously the forums and sharing that kind of knowledge. Sorry, I think it's here. Is that what's kind of, you know, I feel like obviously there's been a lot of, what was the thing with obviously, you know, people can be like quite hoarding with things they find and be like, I don't want to share it with anyone. But why has it always been kind of like the sharing of the journey? Is that kind of collaborating with people, getting people's perspective and kind of evolving your, I suppose, your knowledge and your engagement in the community more and more by having those forums and discussing your ideas and sharing ideas to eventually obviously come to this idea of this premium product?
I'd like to just point out, like, for starters, that I learned just as much, or if not more, than anyone from that forum, than anyone else who has like come into there. For example, the way I build the packs for Defiant, that's the result of a lot of people on the forum sharing their mistakes and their trials and their battery fires, and you know, I finally did it. This is right. We finally figured out a way that's right, you know, to build these packs. And that was a long journey, you know?
Someone said obviously about the pricing as well. Someone said about the 1K deal. I'm going to say about here, the price of the board, is it staying where it is for the duration of time at this point? Because I remember when you had that massive, enormous discount on your board. Yeah. Is that where it's going to be sitting for a little while, or is it just at this time? Obviously, around 2K mark. Obviously, you've got the thing is to think about, I suppose, from my perspective, is I'm obsessed with gear drive. I think that's just a way to go personally. Mm-hmm. But you've got CNC trucks, massive motors, high quality parts, 2K. How did was that kind of where it's kind of sat from the parts used, or has that been the goal where you wanted to price?
Yeah, that was basically a massive sale. So we're the price is going to go back up, but from what I understand, it's not going to go all the way back up. And I'm not sure exactly where they're going to land it. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what shows up on the price on the shop. They do tell me some things about the marketing and the stuff that they do, but I tend to try to stay out of it because I'm more focused on like building.
Let me be creative and you make my things.
Yeah, I just like one of my favorite things to do is answering emails. You know, and sometimes responding to questions I get often with emails on Instagram or whatever. But yeah, it's more of that for me. I just tell them when the price is too low. It's like, you're not going to be able to recover any part cost.
Well, so but that's the thing people don't realize. It's like what happens when things potentially go. We're riding skateboards, you know, you don't see anything on a car. Do you know what I mean? So I came across this image here, and obviously the evolution of a product I find really interesting. Is this kind of the early days of the Defiant one, or is this a Defiant kind of like this is where the ideas come up?
Oh, that's a rain demon seed. So yeah, that was one of 5 boards that I built right before I decided to take a big break. Those trucks and motor mounts are from Savage Nebula, and yeah, that's a Rain Demon Seed deck and a DeVega with a matching X plates and a 12S 4P monocell in there. Somebody told me I could get a 5P in there. I wasn't able to do it. comfortably.
Not comfortably, yeah, exactly.
It felt like it was really sketch, but you do you.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really important. I think that's the thing. It's like we there's always the next. I want more X, Y, and Z. So I think having that kind of goal of what kind of ride you want is really important, because I feel that kind of growth is where you want to be, because you can't have one board that does everything. Even though I feel like slightly with your AT conversion, you've been pushed to do a little bit extra from the street board to be an AT board.
Yeah, that with those tires will do almost anything. First of all, I don't condone or approve of people riding on the beach, like in the sand on the beach.
Right.
But I know people are going to do it, and there is that sweet spot between the water line and the powder, where it's usually pretty decently packed. I know some people are going to go out there and waste the bearings in their motors on there. It'll probably do that. It'll do like the really crappy like Portland streets now. So
I suppose it rises up slightly as well, so it gives you a slightly bit more clearance as well.
Yeah, you can hit the speed bumps a little faster.
So I have to ask, logo Kakabanya, where does that come from, please?
The capybara, yeah. Okay, so I guess at some point we were brainstorming mascots or logos or whatever, and the idea came up that maybe we should adopt an animal that has like all positive memes. Like there's no negative memes anywhere about a capybara. Like you can't find it. Everyone loves it. Even the crocodiles don't mind them. Like it's like, come on. So we were like, okay, we'll take a capybara and we'll put an ear piercing in, like a safety pin or something, and put a chain around his neck and give him a scar, and like he's a badass now, because
I love it. I love it. It's almost got like a Western kind of like the rough cowboy style with it. The style.
He's totally urban, like he's urban punk, I guess, in a way.
He's got a name. Have you got a name for this character?
Cappy, I think is what we called it. I don't think we ever settled on a name. I know there was discussion of it.
That'd be so cool. That could be sick.
Yeah.
I just love that. That's so funny. I just love the orange because I love these opportunities to get these questions in. I've got a question here. It's obviously talk about the parts here with the Nebula TKP trucks.
Did I ever try?
Oh, well, that's the previous. Yeah.
Yeah, he did make some awesome stuff.
That's cool.
I really appreciate the workmanship that went into that. Like the machined aluminum pulleys and everything were just brilliant.
A question for you as well. Let me find this here. Actually, just want buffer in here. Good example of talk about board. Obviously, you've been a solo kind of like, I suppose, venture along the way. What was it like to have this amount of boards behind you, and then kind of this is where we're at this point?
Oh, that's the best. The best part about that question is that is half the boards.
No way.
They're on the if you look at the wall that I am facing, which is the one behind me right now, there's another rack of exactly that size. And what's on the wall behind me right now is like demo boards and stuff that we let people try, and they basically now we're using them for parts for warranty or whatever. But at one point I had 40 boards on the wall.
That's mad.
Yeah.
So are you doing most of the assembly yourself then, or all the assembly, or just the design side of things?
No, I've done all of it. And the way we did that was obviously there's delay time, right? So when you design a part or you work with a parts designer and engineer, in our case, we worked with Kevin from Board Dynamics for the trucks and the gear drives. And then I worked with Russell over in the UK, solo longboards. And I worked with Jan at De Vega to get just all the little custom parts. But while we were waiting on all of that, I was doing assembly work on the batteries and the wiring harnesses and that kind of stuff. And we would get the enclosures in, and then I would populate them. And so it was kind of more of a steady stream, and then I got all the battery stuff done. That's all on my Instagram. I think I did like 80 boards worth of batteries in like a month and a half or something. And then there were the gear drives and trucks that had to wait on them. So when they showed up, I was probably done with the batteries and the charge ports and all of those little things. And then the gear drives show up. So I just set up an assembly on my bench for the gear drives, and I did all of them. There's probably pictures somewhere of just like this rack, and all you can see are the boas, but the wheels are on the front trucks and the back trucks, and they're all numbered and paired together, and fully assembled, thread locked, motors on, everything just ready to bolt on. So now when the orders come, once we get the decks in, all I got to do is like quick assemble it, configure, run QA, and it's a 2 to 3 hour process instead of like a 10-hour process.
Yeah, look at the packs, man. It's like endless packs upon packs on cells.
There we go.
And I thought that was it. No, it just keeps going.
That's the P groups. So that was welding day.
Welding day. That's mad.
All these bastards. Yeah. So the day before was fish paper day.
Oh, okay. Planning it all out.
Glue all the cells together day. So yeah, we ordered from a company we found some laser cut nickel. So I have the nickel like pre-cut already. There's no scissoring it out like we used to in the old school. Nice welding slots and a tab that folds over and everything. It worked out. It made things a lot faster. So
I want to talk about obviously engaging in the community for a long time. Let me just see if I can find it. Yeah, I'll get back up soon. So with the truck system as well, there's a lot of adjustments as well with your truck system, isn't there, as well, with the way you can have it, the angles as well. Is that right?
Yeah. If I recall correctly, it's 50, 43, and 36 degree angle. I'll have to check my spec sheet, but I believe that's what it is.
So what was the goal of having that kind of adjustability of the truck system?
That's the difference between like being able to carve as much as you want and being able to go as fast as you want without wobbles, or basically minimizing carve. So if you drop your trucks low on the rear end, you can eliminate a lot of speed wobble, which you can, it's a combination of that and your bushings basically. And then you can get it, really up there if you want, and you'll have more confidence and be more comfortable with it because you don't feel it. But the way this board works, I mean, I've been up to like 30, 35 miles an hour on it, just in the 50-degree position, just because I have my bushing set right and the way my ankles work. So it really depends on who you are and your style of riding. But the benefit is to completely change the way the board handles.
I love the enclosure segments as well. I think they're really, really clean. How it fits together as well with the I haven't seen anyone do that kind of like texting kind of thing on enclosures before.
Yep, that was Russ Brammer. Solo Longboards made those enclosures. We're really trying to scale up, and pretty soon we'll be using a factory to do that stuff. But Russell made us 3 prototype decks, and he's been making our enclosures until we can find someone who can do injection molding, which we have. We're just working it out. Sometime after CFI, we'll start that process.
Is that the benefit, I suppose, with the heritage of being able to be in the community for so long? People who you've seen grow over the years and like almost like demonstrate their CV skills over the years with stuff they've created over the years. You're like, oh, I know someone who's my trucks guy. I know who's going to be my De Vega guy, telemetry guy and stuff like that. Is that kind of the benefits of being able to be in the scene for so long?
Yeah, it is, and it's a combination of that. Like knowing the people also is very beneficial because then you can just, once you figure out what you want, you can just go to them, which is amazing. But also, like all of that experience tells me like which parts are going to work and which aren't.
Yeah.
So like for example, I knew that we were going to need some wide trucks, and I knew that because we wanted to use some long motors. And
I'm talking about that. I'm going to bring that up now. I'm going to cut you up there. When I saw this, you can't even put a playing card between where that angle. It's so tight.
The clearance is something around 3 millimeters.
It's ridiculous. It's so tight, but it just fits. It's like nothing else will fit.
Yes, and so one of the biggest differences between our trucks and the stock Board Dynamics trucks is that bevel that goes across where the motors sit. Because Kevin did that specifically for those Matex, the big 6396s that are on there.
There's no other motor you can fit on that for that scale. That's it, isn't it? That's all you get.
Yeah, it's right up next to the Kingpin. I mean, you have between the motor butts, you have like maybe 3 centimeters or something like that, and that's about how big the kingpin is, like the area that it needs to be.
So with that as well, how do you find? Obviously, I'm just thinking about just maintenance of that. How's it assembly with something like that? Is it easy to move motors, or is it a bit of a finicky process, or is it just like that's the sacrifice you make by having this much real estate for a motor?
No, assembly is actually pretty straightforward because of the way his whole mounting system is designed. There's a ring, and then the mount for the motor bolts to the ring, and then you can just slide the whole thing on. So I can
It's
put
an
the
incredibly small motor, isn't it? Gear drive, sorry, as well, isn't it? Like the scale of it is so tight. It really is.
It actually is very compact. You know, for the number of teeth it is, I believe it's a 2760. And the teeth are fine, very fine.
It's a really tight system. So I just want to ask you, obviously, oh, he's going the wrong way now. I lost you. Let me bring you back. 1 second. There we are. Right. Yeah, sorry about that. I'll stop saying that. Right. Yeah. Obviously, with the community growing throughout the years, let me just grab this because I just jumped from one to the other, which is irritating. 1 second. I just get this here. There we go. Cool. I'm back. Obviously, I've been following the journey, well, your journey for a long, long time, which is great. And obviously, it's really great to obviously meet at ECon. But obviously, you've been involved with going to Vegas as like for a long time, and this just shows you how much engagement I've been following the journey. Like, this is one of the first things I saw with the
2018.
Old school one. It's
Yeah,
like the very.
Is that a Witchblade? Ah, that's Deshaun.
I miss seeing him, man.
Man, I miss him. He used to come out, man. I got a funny story about him and what he sent me a unicycle. He tried to corrupt
me. Give in to it. I don't know why everyone's so scared it's going to take over Eastgate. It's another tool.
Well, if he didn't make such a show of being the absolute perfect cameraman on one wheel.
Oh my God.
I mean, this guy. Okay, so let me tell you guys about Deshaun, because I don't think a lot of people realize this guy.
His respect, yeah. So and not modern Eastgate guys. I don't think modern Eastgate guys
like races where people are like full throttle.
This one,
right?
This is legendary. This is. Bring this up. Let's talk about old school Eastgate. Just have some fun for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, go on. You're saying about the races. This is one of the drag races from Vegas.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, look at that. ABEX everywhere. You see that, right?
Yeah. Humble beginnings.
Yep. And so we would have races and stuff. And Tashawn's like filming the race, right? And you think, oh yeah, he's like right behind him. He's chasing them. He's like getting some good angles. No, he's in front of them, riding backwards, shooting at on the track while the race is happening. Like, that's his level. Doing like 60 backwards or whatever.
But he was the most humble guy ever, wasn't he? He really was.
Oh yeah. And he sent me all of that video that he shot, and he's just the nicest guy. And then, like, out of nowhere, he's like, "Hey, you want to try this? You want to? What was it? What wheel was it? It was the Segway, the Segway 9-bot." And that thing took me forever to learn how to ride because I was. It's so Eastgate. Everybody I knew would try it and would like get it in like a day, and it took me like 3 weeks to learn how to ride that damn thing.
That's so fun. But I do feel, obviously, I'll bring it back to Eastgate in a second. But yeah, I think I do miss seeing Tashawn's content. It was such a unique thing, and I don't think he really gets as much love as he's deserved for how a unicyclist grew the Eastgate community individually as a single entity.
He really helped us like get out there, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Right. Yeah. So to the point of my original question there is obviously with ECon now, how have you found with obviously last year's ECon coming in as a vendor and kind of demonstrating the product and getting it out there a little bit more? How was that experience? Because for me, it's a nightmare now because now every year I have to go to Vegas, which is incredibly expensive every year to go to ECon.
I'm pretty sure we're going to go back this year. This year I'm going to drive, but last year, because just tons of stuff and the logistics of flying giant packages out ahead of you is just a nightmare. So last year was great. like, yeah, the logistics were terrible. We had like 17 gigantic boxes that we had to FedEx, and all of this stuff. But while we were there, like after the setup and everything, and just getting to see everybody and try the stuff, it was amazing. And we got a lot of great feedback on our boards too, while we were there. Lots of people.
Was that kind of how the Hoyt kind of collaboration with the wheels kind of came more in tune when you were talking there? Was that a byproduct of ECon with that collaboration? Was that talks before?
Yeah, that we have an interesting relationship with Hoyt. Like I don't look at them as a competitor. They're like our friends.
Yeah.
so like I mean, obviously we have different offerings, and and the offerings themselves are very different. So it's not like we're exactly in each other's space either. So
exactly.
Yeah. So we have a pretty solid relationship with them, and it's always great to go to those conventions and talk to them. Like, let's go back behind the trailer and talk about this stuff and like get some intelligence, like who's doing what's happening, what's breaking, what's working, what's not working, and we'll share. And I think that makes the whole community stronger when vendors can do that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I feel like that's the byproducts of ECon people have not realised is just being open, like you say, with sharing the knowledge and stuff like that. It's about talking about products to make everything better for everyone, and as a unit we all thrive from that, for sure. I've got a question here. Sorry, go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was shortly after that Jackson Lewis, I believe it was, hit me up on the forum and was like, hey, we think our wheels would look sick on your board.
I think I even saw that in real time. I think on the forum.
I think at this point this was all just a conspiracy to get us to buy a bunch of tires from Hoyt.
Yeah.
because you know what happened next. It's like, oh, we got to have our own rims for this. Like, we need this. Look at that slide. Yeah. What is even happening?
Yeah, I need to get my slide back on. I think just busting myself over the years. Everyone's going ahead and doing crazy stuff. Just
enough flex and the rebound in those boas.
That's a good point. Yeah, actually, talk about that point now. You can actually see the flex from Fred's video here. It's like marginal, isn't it? It's just enough to give you a street flex feeling without it being like a trampoline throwing you off. Because I feel like I spoke to Mike about with the new Interstellar board. It's like it's a higher speed board, so you don't want this board throwing you off with that higher top speed.
Right. Yeah, the deck absorbs like a ton of that stuff. You could see the way he was bouncing over stuff. When I first rode the prototype like that, the very first thing I thought of was, this reminds me of riding a board on small high pressure pneumatics. You remember the Haggy wheels? How little they were?
I they're like little dinky tiny things.
Yeah, they were tiny. I think they were 5s or 5.5s or something. Which is why we went with a smaller tire. But yeah, like between the deck and the bushing combination, and the formula in the boas, which is amazing, you end up with something that feels a lot cushier on even the crappy pavement.
I suppose, yeah, another good example is a quick changing to, obviously with the setup with the trucks, is quick changing to make the board. And obviously Fred's a good example of like the obsession with street wheels and making your own.
Yep, you can do that. You can swap the bushings. Those are Paris compatible cups. So if you want to swap the cups, you can do that too. Yeah, we ship with Riptide cranks. Riptide cups, yeah.
That's cool. I've got a question here. I forgot to mention it earlier here. Actually, Fred's actually in here as well. Self-indulged Fred. I see you, mate. I see you. I've got a question here, and it's a really interesting question, obviously, with the boutique market. Let me just go here. I've got a question. What's your thoughts on Laquan Kelly going to business in relation to, obviously, the premium market? Like how obviously it's innovation. I suppose we lost more people in that thing, but how's that? Is that changed like a perspective on how Defiant may be looking towards running the business model or something like that going forward?
Are we a bit scared because people are falling?
It's not that scared kind of thing, but I did feel like it's changed.
Though, right? Like it does.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, it's like Kaylee was Ernesto. You showed the 2018 Vegas, right? That's where I met Ernesto for the first time in person. And he is such a cool guy, like in person, just to hang out with, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And so when he came out with his board, like he was like, "You got to try this. You got to try this." And finally, somebody in my area got one, and I tried it. And the very first thing I did was haul ass into a ditch and just start surfing the ditch walls because it just looked like that kind of board to me. And and the guy was like, "No, no, no, that's a street board." And I'm like, "But it's got knobby tires. I don't understand."
Yeah, as a street rider, you're giving me in that premise monster truck wheels. So I'm going to devour everything.
Panel trucks. It's got angled deck. It's got knobbies. What are you talking about? This is not a street board. So, so yeah, that was my first experience with a Kaylee. But yeah, there's been a lot of innovation that he did. He had some really cool wheels. So yeah, I think in general, I miss him. Like I think we're gonna miss him being in the market. And he, by the time he was wrapping it up, like those boards look sick. Like I never got to try one of the later models. I did some battery swaps on a few of them, so I got to see like kind of how he progressed. And I did the same with LaCroix. Like I was kind of unofficially a warranty guy there for a while, and I really love the way those boards rode. Like those were smooth and silky. But yeah, I'm gonna miss them.
It's a shame that we're obviously missing that kind of innovation stuff. But I suppose I seem to find, like, when I was talking with M-Boards about their board and where your boards sit, we've got, I think it's sitting in a kind of a different demographic of what a boutique premium board is, because I feel like there's always been a stigma of a boutique premium board being an absolute massive tank over the top. But I suppose it seems like from my chat today, focuses about sleek, stealth, premium, carvy, smooth ride.
Yeah, basically, you could consider the Defiant one like exactly the opposite of what a BioBoard was. Like, I haven't really been keeping up with them lately, but when I was doing their assembly and shipping, those boards were tanks. Like they were the fastest monster boards, you know, and people were doing insane speeds on them and having a blast. But yeah, they were kind of clunk, you know. Like I kept that in mind. You know, my boards have always been super slender. My witch blades had a custom enclosure that was designed specifically for 18650s. Like you can barely squeeze anything taller than a Unity in there because that's what was out at the time. So yeah, I've always been like interested in how wide I can make a pack, not necessarily how thick. And that's how we ended up with 60 cells underneath that Defiant deck, because I built a 12S6P and then wrapped a deck around it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so basically you built what the electronic suite you need and then gone round it and made the infrastructure and from there.
Kind of like a supercar where you well, I don't know if they actually do this, but it seems like you would want to perfect the suspension and the chassis and everything and then just wrap some aerodynamics around it, you know.
Really, really cool. So with obviously the Defiant Board Society, obviously having the infrastructure, the merch, I want to say, is really, really nice that you guys have. And the one time I literally live in your top, and I'm not just going to say Bella, but the merch side of things are really, really quite cool, actually. So with the merch side of things, like, I don't know, I just really like the way that the styling goes from that. So where's the styling come from with your kind of like branding and stuff like that? Because obviously the building and assembly side is where you go from there. How have you found working as a wider demographic, obviously with Defiant, obviously as a whole, and actually everyone having their own elements, working on other projects as well? How's that enriched what you've done over the years?
Oh, it is a relief. It is a relief. It is like a big open room I can breathe in. Yeah, when I was doing my own stuff, it was a nightmare. Like I have to make sure I have to order all this, I have to order all that, I have to print shirts and list shirts and then market. Oh, I hate marketing and I hate sales and I love customer support and I like building. I just hate marketing and sales and figuring out hats and all this. So they came in and they did all that, and it's just like, wow, this is awesome. You know, we got people doing Facebook campaigns. I never would have done a Facebook campaign.
I noticed earlier when we was talking earlier, I was like, I'll message you on Facebook, and you just went, no. Like, I didn't say anything. Just like,
was like, because I have Facebook on my phone, but not on my laptop, and I don't want to do this interview on my phone.
Yeah, no, I feel it as well. That's a good question here. I've got one here. Actually, I didn't even think about it. So obviously with the Stormcore, because that's what was originally in the Defiant one. What's the ESC going to be going forward?
Down the road, we're doing right now. We're evaluating the Maker X DV6 Pro, I'm really happy with it. It has a smaller footprint, lower per unit cost, and runs just as wild. So, and it does everything we need it to do. I think that's where we're going to be going, which unfortunately means we're going to lose that really cool storm core button on the outside.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, but it must be. Yeah, I suppose if someone who's a designer, like builder, I suppose if that bothers you enough, you'll find a way of putting like a Cochabana, or I can't even pronounce it, on the side. As that as a button, that would be so cool if you can get that.
To answer that question, like what we ended up doing was I was asked to put together. Essentially, can I take the Defiant one and create a new board or a new configuration of that board that costs less and pass that savings on to the customers? Like, can you build, like, for example, up until just now, the Defiant was $3,000, right? So at the time they were like, can you build a $2,500 board? And I was like, okay, let me take a look. Like, what can we strip, and still get the feel and experience of riding.
Yeah, how do we have the same product at a better value, basically, isn't it?
So here's what is coming, and I think maybe some people saw this on Instagram. It's like, here's what's coming. There's a new SKU that we're working on, and it's going to be a little bit before we can finish it up. But we're going to take that deck and that enclosure and those trucks, and we're going to put a belt drive on it instead of a gear drive.
Okay.
And we're going to drop the cell count from a 12S 5P to a 12S 4P. And we're going to lose the DeVega, and we've developed a new fuel gauge that's basically 8 white lights that go in an X plate on the front where the DeVega was.
I think I briefly saw that. So yeah, please. I think it might have. No, not this one. Yeah, keep going, please. I did find that. There it is.
Spread out. Like, I was kind of sneaky about it. I was like, oh yeah, we're working on trucks.
Yeah.
And then we're working on a belt drive system, and we're working on a fuel gauge, and then there it is. Yeah.
That is pretty. I love that because it's convenience, isn't it?
Yeah, the ones coming from the factory aren't going to have the capybara lasered on them, like, so the lights don't cut through his face. But, but that's a prototype that I actually drilled on my drill press, and somehow I didn't screw it up on the third time.
I suppose from looking at the innovations that go along, I suppose it comes across every time where it's convenience for the rider. So with the Vega being on it, and then obviously these lights being put on it as well, and the adjustabilities, the premise to be as simple as possible. Because for me, my prediction for this year for eSkate was, obviously we've all had different years of every innovation coming out, and I feel like this is the year mainly where it's been all about convenience for the customer. So it's like people can have this high quality parts, but it's user friendly as possible.
And that was one of the reasons we wanted to strip the DeVega off. Was it's for a lower cost board. Obviously, it does a lot of cool stuff like keep all of your trips and everything. But I think there's a lot of people out there that would rather save $500 on a board and just know how much battery they have left, because they're out there, So
I suppose that's options. I just want to say as well, like one of my big pet peeves with premium boards, and I think if Fred's still here as well, the same thing here is having these 2,000, 3,000 originally priced boards, and then the board is the box is just garbage. Like, what the packaging for that is, whoever's done that as part of the team has done a really, really smart, clean, tidy job.
You like that box?
It's beautiful. I love it. It's simple.
That's my design. Yeah.
Oh, is that yours? Oh, okay, lovely. I love it. I love it.
They put me in touch with a box company, and the box company made it so easy. I was like, we know we want one of those top flappy tuck-in board boxes like Evolve has and like other people have. But we need it this wide, we need it this long, and do you have a template for that or something? And so they sent us this, and I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what we need. So I was able to just load it up in Illustrator and put the graphics where I wanted, and they made that box. But then what I also had to do, it wasn't so easy with the foam, obviously. I was like, we need foam, we need this much at the ends, we need this much in the middle. Can you make it this long, this wide? I need cutouts for this. I had to make basically drawings for the cutouts and send it to them, and they lasered it out of the foam. And so now my garage is full of about, I don't know, 60, 70, 80 of those boxes are out there in my garage, like all decompressed.
Ready to go, yeah.
Yeah, flat. And so like I can't walk in my garage, but I can ship some boards when the decks get here. So.
Well, like as well, because of the 12S 5P, 12S 5P setup, the charger is a really sensible size, because I feel like with some of these boutique boards, they have like these, for example, like the Cali came with a, was it 15 amp charge or something ridiculous for a 18 S8P or 20 S8P. Like, it's just such overkill, because you don't, the point is, if you've got a board that does endless range anyway, you don't need to charge quickly, because it's just like a trickle charger. So like having a 6 amp charger just makes sense with that board. And it's also as well, I suppose, with that charger size, you always have it with you, because if it's this massive giant box, you can't carry that with you for sure.
It does a backpack well. Obviously, those extruded metal chargers are hard to get in a bag or whatever a lot of times, but that one actually curls up pretty good in a backpack.
So my question is, for you, obviously you've been training for quite a while at this point with Defiant going here. What are the biggest kind of innovations or things you've seen your customers have with the boards, or changes they've made to make them their own? What are the biggest things that you've seen people do with the boards?
With the Defiant boards?
Yeah.
So far, it's just mostly people writing. I haven't seen a whole lot of modifications to them. We've gotten a lot of questions. Probably the main thing is the wheels. Like, everyone's got their own wheels. Yeah. Mad wheels, hollow wheels. There's some airless Kegel core pneumatic sized wheels out there that people have tried. I think you know the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And we have. Yeah. And one guy took his DeVega off and just put an X plate on the front and was like, I don't need this dashboard.
Take it off, done.
He was reading the colors on the button. He was fine. So like that was actually one of the things that made me think about just maybe we just need a fuel gauge. Maybe we could save some money there. But I think primarily, like, the board out of the box comes in such a way that you can change like the fundamental characteristics of it without swapping too many parts. You got the truck angles, you can swap the bushings, you can swap the wheels. So not a lot. I expect to see some reskinned at some point. Probably after it's nice and beat up.
Yeah, I suppose it needs to be battered a little bit before the people start making them their own kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It might be a minute before we start really seeing it, but I expect to see like some purple ones out there somewhere with like glitter epoxy. You know how the guys are on the forum.
Yeah. I feel like we're lacking in those kind of DIY kind of deck skins nowadays. We seem to have lost that slightly in the last usage with Sender and that, all obviously not trading anymore. I feel like we've lost a little bit of that kind of custom deck design. But then I suppose, not to feed an ego a little bit, maybe just that people like the decks as they are because of the graphics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Nice and simple, isn't it? So obviously with the remote as well, it's, for me, I don't know why people. I feel like people like in the UK we call it like Marmite, where it's like love or hate. Like I
Hoyt puck,
love, the Hoyt puck. Like I love.
It's a lot like Marmite that way. You are correct.
Yeah, I love the Hoyt puck. Would there be any other kind of like evolution from there you'd want to go with that? Because I've seen some out there. I can't remember what they're called. You probably know better than me. With the incorporated screens and telemetry on the remote as well. Do you feel like that's needed on a remote, or do you reckon it just does what it needs to do, does it well?
So yeah, that's a question that, and this actually ties into why we even have a DeVega. So, this question does come up a lot. It's like, why did you choose the Hoyt puck? It's either why did you choose it? I love it, or why did you choose it? I hate that remote. And can I use another remote? And I'm always like, yes, this is a VESC compatible system. Bring your own remote. Just watch the congestion. Because the reason I chose the Hoyt puck was because it is the most reliable remote out there and experiences the least amount of interference, period.
Yeah.
And to me,
safety 101. Yeah.
Right. To me, like, I don't know about you, but I've lost a lot of skin on bad remotes.
I've been quite lucky. The only one I've had, let's be honest, is an Evolve remote. There's only one where it's gone like, goodbye. On me. And then as soon as I had my first Lacroix NAS, it's only ever been the Hoyt. But I suppose what I like about it, and I suppose the benefit of the Hoyt puck system, is the adjustability and the community support about changing the houses going here. I've got a question here from Fred here asking about any issues with people changing settings on the vest and possibly voiding warranty and stuff like that. Obviously, being an open source board, I don't think we talked about that. I want to talk about it afterwards. But yeah, first one asked that question about any issues with vest settings and stuff like that as well.
I would love to answer this question. So yes. Do I have any issues with people changing vests? I have absolutely no issue with you voiding our warranty. So here's the thing. And I realize how crazy that kind of sounds. It's like, yeah, avoid it. Then we want to help you. No.
Yeah.
It works. All right. So basically, everything in our board is OTS. It's off the shelf. You guys know it. You guys are familiar with it. All of the storm cores that we've shipped in the board so far, they all have Bluetooth in them. So also the BMS does too. And if you don't know your pin, it's the serial number. So officially, technically, if you crack open the enclosure, the warranty is void. Does that mean I'm not going to answer your questions? That's not what that means. What that means is that if a part breaks because you misconfigured something, you're going to have to pay for the part if you want us to replace it, or you're going to have to, and for the labor and for the shipping. Or you just go buy the part, replace it yourself, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. I'll be happy to give you the stock configuration. I'll be happy to do whatever, I can via email. So yeah, by all means, go in there, swap your remote, change your settings, crank the battery amps up to 120 if that's really what you want to do.
So would you say like the kind of benefit of what you're doing is, and that's one of my last questions of me personally, and guys, we've only got a couple minutes left for the interview, so please put the questions in if you're one chance getting instant responses. But for me, which we haven't talked about, is having the framework for an open source based board. Was that kind of the key element of what you want to do? So my question with that, obviously, have an open source board, and my neighboring question with that as well, we talked about obviously just now about people making the board their own, changing settings and jazz and stuff like that. If, for example, I bought your board and I said I want to do X, Y, and Z, would you say, for example, I want to do this? Would you say to someone, maybe you could do that, but then it changes the warranty of what you're doing, and I would go here to do it? Would it be something you're prepared to do? But be like, people, I want to do this. I want to make it four-wheel drive. I don't know. Let's be mental. I want to make it four-wheel drive just for the sake of it, right? Would you say to someone, okay, I can't help you, but maybe you want to look in this direction for your question? Is that kind of like the goal of getting people to be curious and understanding more about how their board works?
First of all, if Defiant allowed me to continue with Long Haired Boy, I've just put it on the shelf because I only have so much bandwidth. But let's say, for example, somebody bought a Defiant and they've had it for a year, right? And they're like, yeah, they want to make it four-wheel drive. Okay. So if you want to pay for the parts and send it to me, I'll make it four-wheel drive. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't send it to Defiant, send it to LHB. You know what I mean? Like, there might be some labor in there, and the parts are kind of expensive. But if you have the bandwidth to do that, absolutely. You're going to lose about 10 cells, so we'll have to reconfigure your battery. But the rear battery tray is big enough for a Maker X DV6 Pro.
Just rotate it, and then
obviously you just put another gear drive on the front, and then you're good. So
So basically, the idea is welcoming that kind of thing, but we just need to do it through the right channels, basically.
It's like, people ask, can I do this? Can I do that? My answer is always, well, that's going to void the warranty, but here's how you do it.
It's like encouraging that. But I suppose the exciting part of that is people push things in a new way.
Yeah, I just took my Amazon Razor, my Razor apart because I wanted to see what cell was in it because I don't want to buy another one. Like, that's the crowd that we're in right now.
Yeah, just seeing what we can do. We'll see what's possible. Okay, guys, right. So we're pretty much going to be closing here, but is there anything in particular you want to say or talk about in the last couple of minutes of the interview? Anything you want to announce or talk about before we close the interview?
Just in general, we are working on more boards, more variations. Not necessarily, not just stuff that's Defiant 1 based, but also we do have some interesting things that we've been talking about figuring out. how we can do. So yeah, stay tuned for like new stuff. And I can't wait for these wheels to get back here because I had to send them off for pictures, so I don't get to ride them right now. But
I just lost you for a second. Do you mind repeating that? Sorry, one second.
The wheels that we're pre-ordering.
Yep.
I'm not getting to ride them right now because I had to send them off for pictures. But
right,
I kind of can't wait. I can't wait for that. I can't wait for you guys to get on those. And yeah, definitely get on that pre-order because when we list price them, it's not going to be pre-order price. That we are pre-ordering at like the bottom of the margin.
yeah, it's just to make it plausible. Then take it while you can, basically. Just one thing I just want to say. Just one thing, last thing, comment from me from the wheels element. Because obviously we've talked about it, guys. Realize it's a Kegel design, so think about the compatibility. That's the big thing from that design for sure. So that can go on
your board.
Yourself.
It doesn't have to be a Defiant. You just got to buy some new pulleys, maybe. If you got an ABEC board, or if you've got a Kegel core board already, these will work.
And
look at
sure.
That. That's sick. I mean, come on. That's like 1970s custom van. Come on. You want that?
Yeah, it's like a hot rod Mustang kind of thing. Big old.
That is some hot wheels, right? And one thing about these wheels I want to mention is both bearing seats are on the back half, so it's a very precise, unwobble feel, like the entire ride in the life of the wheel.
That's cool. It'd be interesting. Yeah, well, if you know, kind of ECon, come over to the booth and check them out. I suppose that's if you're not sure, if you haven't got them yet, good chance to come over and check them out. Right. So I think that's everything else. I'll check the comments briefly. Oh God, I'm just talking business about lights and prices. Cool, wicked. Right, okay, so I'm going to wrap up here. I'll say thank you so much for joining me. I'm always getting giddy with interviews, getting a chance to talk to some of the actual legends in the skate scene. Things are coming, and it's always good to get a backstory about how boards evolve and how we're evolving as a community going forward. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what's next and seeing those wheels out there and seeing what people are going to be doing, and then obviously seeing more Defiance out there for sure. But I'll say thank you for watching, guys. I'm going to wrap up here. I'm going to close the stream now. So thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next live stream. Peace. Let's give that a second. And is it still going? It's not going. I'm still live. And why am I stuck in this? Yeah. Why am I still live? Am I still live? Guys, comment if I'm live. I don't know. Oh, this is where I need to do this. 1 second. I haven't busted this out yet, so this will be the first time I'm using it. End stream.